Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's session. It is my privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Kedar Marathe from Pune, Maharashtra. Dr. Marathe is a renowned obstetrician and gynecologist, laparoscopic surgeon, and IVF consultant. He is one of the oldest and most respected members of the Wealthcon family. Over the years, he has played an instrumental role in mentoring fellow doctors, serving as a guide, senior guide, and preceptor. His commitment to learning, teaching, and helping others grow has inspired countless Wealthcon members. Everyone, please join me in giving a warm and heartfelt welcome to Dr. Kedar Marathe. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so thank you everybody for joining this meeting, and thank you for the kind introduction. I think we all always start the presentation with this saying, and that is Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, which means that lead me from unreal to real, lead me from darkness to light, and in today's discussion, from ignorance to knowledge. So, with that, this is a little introduction of me. I'm a gynecologist and obstetrician practicing in Pune, and I've been associated with Wealthcon for last 6 years. Dr. Ram, those who all are associated with Wealthcon, he needs no introduction, but for others who have joined, who are probably new to this Wealthcon, he's a Wealthcon founder. He's a radiologist practicing in Mumbai, and he has a glorious financial profile. He has an experience of teaching 95 plus thousand doctors and in India and across the globe. So he has 20 years of experience in investing, trading, and he has a unique blend of his academic knowledge, practical market exposure, and teaching zeal. Now, WealthCon, those who all probably don't know about it, it's a educational platform. It is run by the doctors for the doctors, and it is to create financial awareness in doctors. This platform does not provide any investment tips or any portfolio management or recommendations. It is a purely educational platform, and we follow the SEBI educational guidelines as well. Now, with this, the basic principle we all follow is Swan principle. So we take whatever is suitable and we discard whatever is not. So if we are a student and not a judge, I think we can learn far better. Now, before I begin my talk today, I would tell you a little bit about my own financial journey. And this is probably going to answer that why are we here today? So when I completed my post-graduation, I was like a 27 years old postgraduate doctor. I was doing a lecturership in a government hospital in Pune. With the kind of payment I was getting, I thought that, okay, I think I need to invest this amount, or I wanted to buy a house. So I looked for a house. That house worth was around 6 lakhs. So I needed a home loan of around 4 lakhs. I went to a bank. I still remember the day, HDFC Bank, and asked the person out there that for the home loan, what all requirements I do have. He gave me a list of documents I needed to give. And one of the documents necessary in that was 3 years ITR. Now, I was really clueless what this ITR is. So I asked that person that what does ITR means? He was actually, in a situation where he couldn't believe that I am asking what ITR is. So he told me that wherever you're working, probably you just go to that office and ask for the last 3 years ITR. That office person will provide you with that. So when I went back to BG Medical College and asked the office person, he said, "Sir, you have done 3 years of residency and you have not filed your income tax ever. And this will be the first year when you'll be filing your income tax." So I said, "Then when will I get my 3 years ITR?" He said, "It will be only after 3 years from now." So I literally had to really wait for 3 years to get my 3 years ITR, and then I, applied for home loan after 3 years. So the point I wanted to make is even being educated from a very prime institute, not just graduation, post graduation, also doctors, we are so-called the cream of the society. We are so much ignorant about our finances and so much ignorant about the financial awareness as well. Later years, when I thought that, okay, I need to invest in something, I'm saving, and for the future, I need to create some kind of a portfolio. So I probably was not sure what should I be doing. And then probably some agents had approached me and they said that, okay, sir, if you invest in these plans, probably that will be good to you. And these were nothing but the ULIP plans. They are unit linked investment plans. I'm sure most of us at some point of time have invested in these ULIP plans. I was invested in ULIP plans. Now, these are insurance linked investment plans, but the problem is they neither give adequate insurance nor give adequate returns. So they're completely useless, but we all at some point of time are going to fall in this trap of ULIPs. And then later I understood that probably, this is not giving me adequate returns, nor it is giving me any adequate sum assurance. So then obviously when I joined Wealthcon, I got to understand a lot of things. I got a lot of insight into finances, and I think that was something which was very, very helpful. So as doctors, we have no knowledge of taxation, we have no knowledge of investment, we have no knowledge of insurance. So we don't have any financial planning, we have no knowledge of loans. And that's how probably we go through. And then we make a lot of mistakes, and then probably we may learn or even actually may not learn from those mistakes. So this is an attempt of WealthCon to create an awareness in doctors like you all. And this will help everybody. So I hope today's session is going to help uh, at least a bit to most of you to make their financial journey better. Now, what are we, why are we here today? So it's like we want to have learning which is in a systematic way. And we want to begin the journey of financial education. Those who are all new with WealthCon, we need you to begin this journey of financial education. And it has to be a self-reliant journey. So we cannot, outsource our financial affairs. Then this we need to begin this journey of investing and wealth creation. And what do we don't do in WealthCon? So we don't give any investment advices which are directly tips or any about which stocks to buy, when to buy, which mutual funds to buy, but we educate you. So we believe the principle that don't serve the fish, but teach the technique of fishing. So, that is going to help the person forever. So we don't believe in intraday trading or any kind of speculative trading here in WealthCon. We condemn that. And we are not going to give any get quick rich kind of schemes. So now when we look at the financial journey, what we have to understand that the financial freedom is the ultimate goal. And this ultimate goal has a lot of ladders in between and a lot of snakes in between. Now, we need to understand that a lot of expenses like loans, EMIs, inflating prices, necessary expenses, unnecessary expenses as well, high taxes, these are all going to pull us down. And we need also to understand that yes, there are certain ladders which are going to help us as well. So financial discipline, savings, investments, insurances, tax saving. So these are going to be the ladders which are going to be helpful to us. So we should be aware of all the snakes in this game, and we need to be aware of all the ladders in the game as well. And this is what is going to help us really in this journey of finance. Now, what are we going to learn? So we want to manage our incomes, we want to manage our wealth, life management as well. And why do we want to learn? Because we can't outsource finance. We have to be self-reliant in this journey and in this field. And when to learn? I think the best day was yesterday, but maybe the next best day is today. So today itself, we should start this journey. And from where to learn? So WealthCon is the best platform for doctors. As I said, more than 95,000 doctors all across the globe are associated with WealthCon, and they have got immensely helped with this platform. Now, this is a typical journey of any person, doctors as well, that early, initial 30 years, probably we are going to spend in our education, and the middle 30 years, we're going to spend with our careers, and the later part after 60, we are going to spend with wealth protection and other traveling, social, uh, you know, recreational things as well. Now, the wealth creation part happens in the middle 30 years, and that is what probably most of us are going to be in this middle 30 years. So it's very, very important for us to know that this wealth creation is going to happen in this 30 years, and we have to be very, very aware of how to do it. Now, if we look at the incomes, the kinds or the types of incomes, we can understand that there are going to be certain active incomes and certain passive incomes. So active incomes are like jobs, if you're working at some place, or if we are like consultants, or we are like self-operated business, we have OPDs, we may have hospitals. So we either can be professionals, self-employed professionals, or there can be passive incomes also. So this passive income is going to come from different investments. We are going to make different assets we are going to create, and that is how this passive income is going to come. So this can be from capital gain, maybe different real estate properties if you have taken, then maybe the rent coming out of it, then different equity products can give us interest, or different debt products can give us dividends. So a lot of such passive incomes can come. Now we are probably, in a situation where increasing an active income is going to be challenging. Of course, that should be the goal for any professional, but it is going to be challenging. But we have to understand that we have to increase our passive income, and that increasing passive income is something very, very important. It all depends upon how good our financial journey is going to be. So when we are talking about personal finance, there are going to be certain components in personal finance, like the income, the spending, then income protection or wealth protection, which is insurance. Then we need different loans, investments, and taxations. So when we look at all these, then which comes first and which should come later. That's something which we all want to figure out. Now, the key principle in the finance or in the field of this financial freedom is the chronology should be earning, saving, and spending. And it shouldn't be earning, spending, and whatever remaining goes to saving. So that's something which is very, very important. So any loans we do have, probably the home loans or any other loans we have, that loan repayment amount shouldn't be more than 25% of our income. So that's something which is important. Minimum 25% should be invested. If you're investing more, great, but at least 25% of your income you should be invested. And the 10%, generally 10 to 14%, 15% can be the tax, probably depending upon the tax bracket we are in. The rest of the amount, maybe around 40%, is now left for insurances. Those are the necessary expenses and other spendings as well. So this is going to be the rough understanding about how our finances on personal level are going to be. Now, we all know the story of the grasshopper and the ant, where the ant is saving for the winters and the grasshopper is just careless about uh, probably following the philosophy of you live just once. So uh, ends up in a very bad situation when the winters come, and the ant is actually saving for the winters, which makes her life very easy. So saving and investment is something which is very, very important. We all know this principle, but sometimes what happens is we fail to actually put it into practice. Now, when we understand savings and investments, we also have to understand that what are assets and liabilities. Now, when these assets and liabilities, these words look like jargons, and maybe, we feel that, oh, is this an economics class or some, accountancy class or something like that? But no, actually, it's very simple. So assets are something which put money in your pocket, and liabilities are something which take money out of your pocket. As simple as that. So the home which we are living in, our own residential house, is not an asset because it's not giving us money. But probably if I have got another home which I have put it on rent, and that house is giving me a monthly rent or something, yes, that becomes an asset. My car is not an asset because the value of the car goes down right from the moment I purchased it. So it's a depreciating asset. It's not an asset. It's liability because I have to spend on that car, maybe, for its maintenance and, a lot of things. So it's not an asset. It's a liability. But my investments become my asset. It's a funny example, but something which will absolutely make us remember the concept of asset and liability is this. So a hen which we buy will be an asset because it is going to give us eggs, is going to give us a recurring return. But a dog which probably would buy is going to demand a lot of money, a lot of expenses, and that is going to take money out of our pocket. So that may become a liability. So a little funny example for us, but which will make us understand that what exactly the assets and what exactly the liabilities are. So in our life, in our financial journey, we have to understand that we have to build assets and we have to reduce our liabilities. And that is something which has to be the primary goal. Now, when we come to that, it has to be understood that when we look at earnings and then what are we going to do with those earnings, we have to understand that how are we going to manage our expenses. So how are we going to spend? When it comes to spending, we categorize this expenses into two categories. One is the products of need, and the others are products of prestige. So a lot of products we buy which we actually don't need, but we buy them because we want to show off. Probably it suits our lifestyle. It suits, a lot of things. So any kind of an expensive car, expensive, you know, uh, electronic items, gadgets, mobile phones, uh, expensive jewelry. These are all basically products of prestige. They are not products of need. And the products of need are very, very simple and limited. They're like our routine regular bills, our health expenses, our education, our living expenses. Now, many people have a philosophy of something, like that grasshopper we saw, that zindagi na milegi dobara, or, you'll only live once. So whatever you earn, you just spend and then you just enjoy. But the problem is that we are not prepared for the winters. And then probably what happened to the grasshopper is going to happen to us. So we have to be cautious, we have to be smart, we have to be intelligent like the ant, and we have to save something for the future. And that is what is important. So if we reduce our expenses on pops, that is products of prestige, we can actually save more. And if we save more, we can invest more. So before we spend anything, we need to ask very few simple questions. One is it an essential expense? So if it is an essential expense, yes, mostly it is a product of need. Will it improve my life or my quality of life? Then if yes, probably it's a product of need. Can I afford it without loan? Try to see that most of the things which you buy are not on loan. So, when we buy things on loan, it's like use today and, pay later. And this is something which is a debt trap, which we're going to look or see how that is bad. Next question can be, will it be benefiting me in the longer run? So what does it mean? Means if I am taking a loan for my education, obviously it is going to empower me. And then with that education, I'm going to progress in life. Probably I'm going to be financially better. So yes, this can be a good expense. Even if I'm, using an educational loan, it's fine. Or if I'm investing in my own business, probably yes, that business is going to grow and business is going to give me higher returns, yes, then it is going to be beneficial. So if I'm spending in all such situations, probably these are products of need. But if the answer comes as no, then they are products of prestige. And I think we are just buying them to show off. I think that show off can be actual or online and different kinds of situations which we see around us. Uh, Now, there is something which is also what we need to understand. So when we talk about spending, we also need to talk about that what are our defenses. So just like Rahul Dravid, who was called as the wall, who had a great defense, we also need to have defense, and that defense is from a lot of bouncers and yorkers and googlies in life. And what are these bouncers? These are death, disease, disability, critical illnesses, and different kinds of liabilities. And we need to be prepared for this. And unless we are prepared for this, probably it is going to drain our investments, and that is something which is bad. So we'll quickly see an example that how this insurances can help. Now, Dr. Raju was a 35 years old doctor with two kids, 7 years and 4 years, and a wife who's a housemaker. He earns 3 lakhs a month, and he spends 1 lakh on his household expenses, 1 lakh on home EMI, 30,000 on a car loan, and 70,000 per month was his saving. Now, his total liabilities, if we see, are going to be, a lot, future liabilities and current liabilities. Now, if there is an untimely death of Dr. Raju, then what's going to happen to his family? So that's something which is important. So what are his liabilities? His house loan is still like 1 crore balance. The car loan is balanced 20 lakhs. Yearly, his family is going to need like 1 lakh a month, so 12 lakhs, which is going to be a 6% appreciating every year, because we know that there is something called as a inflation, where the prices go on increasing year on year. And the educational funds his kids are going to need after, say, 10 or 12 years. Now, what he done was he had purchased a term insurance plan, which is a pure life insurance plan, where he calculated that how much sum assured should be. And then the very simple logic he applied was 20 years multiplied by his annual income. So 20 years by 3 lakhs into 12 months, that came to 7.2 crore. Unfortunately, he passed away with some unfortunate event, and now his family got 7.42 crores as the sum assured. Now, this is tax-free income. So his wife paid 1.2 crores upfront for the home and the car, and the rest 6 crore rupees were invested in a debt instrument. Debt instrument is something which is going to protect your investment. It is not going to erode your investment. The returns might be low, but it is a safe investment, low risk investment. And we assume that the inflation rate in future of things is going to be around 6%. Now, if we can just do the math, we can understand that for next 20 years, they will keep getting 1 lakh per month as is of today's amount, but which will increase later in future, equivalent money for survival, and they can have a very good, decent life. Plus, the kids who may need some educational funds at later life will also be satisfied. So this is something which is important. So we need to understand that yes, differences are important in life. Now, we understand that the literate people in finance are going to look at the insurance as an expense, but it is a necessary expense. So we go for term insurance, health insurance, indemnity insurance, and car insurance. But many people look at insurance as a tax saving tool, or they link insurance with investment, just like the ULIP plans, and that is something which is a problem. Now coming to loan. Loan is a big part in our lives, and it's called as a modern day slavery by Dr. Ram. So the ancient slavery was different, and today's slavery is debt slavery. So we have to understand that we shouldn't be falling in such debt traps. Whenever we are taking any debt, it has to be thoughtful. And how can we think about it? So we should understand that there are going to be some good loans and there are going to be some bad loans. As we said, the good loans which are going to make you buy assets, probably the hospital, the education, the machines, these are good loans. But bad loans are consumer goods. So you're just buying expensive cars, you're buying expensive gadgets, you're taking a personal loan and you're using a credit card, and then a lot of interest you're going to pay on that. So earn first and spend later is something which is a very important policy. And if you do the reverse, that is spend first and earn later, probably that can pull you in a debt trap, and that can be something really, really bad as far as your financial journey is concerned. Now, coming down to something which we call it as an inflation. Now, what is inflation? Inflation is the prices of everything, every commodity, everything what we use goes on increasing every year. And we say that an average inflation in India is around 6% of routine commodities. But the special commodities or the luxury items may have an inflationary rate even more than that, maybe sometimes 10%, 12%. And that is something which is easy for us to understand. So maybe in year 2000, 100 rupees could buy us, say, around 10 cups of tea, but now in 2026, it could buy us only 3 cups. Milk was around 14 rupees a liter, and now it is 62 rupees a liter. Same for the petrol. So the prices are going to go up, and this is going to erode our wealth, and that is something which is very, very important for us to understand. So this is what inflation is. So inflation causes a silent erosion of one's wealth and income. And as we said, every year the prices go on increasing. So we saw the game of snake and ladder. This is the biggest snake in this game. And we have all heard this song long, long, long before, as Sakhi Saiyan to kubhi kamate hai, महंगाई dayan khaye jate. So this महंगाई is the inflation which kills our incomes. And that is something which pushes a lot of people uh, down in their financial journey. Now, what do we then people do? Then people understand that, okay, we need to invest, we need to save, we need to invest. And then they are found by some agents, and then the agents tell them, oh, you invest in these plans, which are insurance plus investment tax saving plans. And then mostly, as I was telling you in my initial financial journey, I ended up investing a lot in these ULIP plans. This is what something happens. But these are not ULIP plans. We call them as ignorance plans because these plans come out of our financial ignorance. Now, there are two components in this. Now, we can just quickly see that if one is investing in this ignorance plan, say around 1.2 lakhs per year, he is going to make around 62 lakhs after 30 years. But if he is investing the same amount in a good average risk equity with say 12% returns, which is like a nifty returns 12%, he may end up getting 2.9 crores in 30 years. So we can see the difference, how big the difference is. Secondly, this person is going to get a very, very, very minuscule amount of term insurance. But we saw that the term insurance Dr. Raju bought was 7.2 CR. So sometimes our actual liabilities can be very, very high, current and future liabilities. So he will get ignorance. Somebody who's going to buy an ignorance plan will get a very, very minuscule sum assured. But if we actually choose a plain vanilla term insurance along with investments in mutual funds, probably we are going to do better. So we say that no to these ignorance plans or no to these ULIP plans. That is something which is first. So we need to understand what are we not going to do, and then we going to go see that what are we going to do. So what are we going to do? So we are going to look into investments in different classes. So what are these? We say that these are 4 classes. GRED. So that is gold, real estate, equity, and debt. Now, gold, we all know. Now, how can we buy gold? The gold we can buy in different forms. We can buy physical gold, we can buy gold ETFs, we can buy something called as SGB or sovereign gold bonds. Now, people say that, okay, buying gold jewelry, is it an investment? I would say no, really not. Because when we are buying gold jewelry, what happens is there's a lot of making charge, so which is primarily eroding the value of that gold. So if you want to do investment in gold, it should be in form of gold coins or gold bars or something like that. Gold jewelry is for use. It's not an investment. So we need to understand that investment and usage are two different things. Now, real estate, obviously, we say that the primary home which you are staying in is not your investment. It is not an asset. Okay. So when we are talking about real estate investment, it is apart from your residential house, any other land, any other commercial property you're buying, that will become a real estate investment. Equity, we all know that stock market is something, we just know stock market, and many people are really, very worried when this word of stock market comes in. But we have to understand that there can be different ways to invest in stock market. One can be direct investment in stock market, directly buying shares of certain companies. Another can be index investing, which is like ETF. So these are exchange traded funds which invest your money in different companies, and that reduces the risk. Other can be mutual funds. So they all can be good and they're necessary. Different debt products like fixed deposit is one of the debt product. There can be liquid funds. There can be GSEC bonds. Now these are all important. They don't produce high returns, but they produce high safety. Now fixed deposit is sometimes the only instrument many people do have as their investment, which is totally bad. Many a times real estate is the only investment people do have, uh, whenever they're doing their investments, or sometimes gold is the only investment. So many a times people rely on only one asset class, and that is something which is really not correct. So we have to understand that these all four asset classes is something which is important, and we say that the distribution of money which you are going to put in all these four asset classes can be something for roughly, for somebody who's around 40 years old, can be 10% in gold, 40% in real estate, 40% in equity, and 10% in debt. The proportions would change as the age advances. The debt proportion would go high, equity proportion may reduce. Now, this is like, a single asset class cannot help you reach the goal. So if we see somebody who's skiing, using the poles and using the skis, just one pole or just one ski is not going to help him reach his goal. So he has to use all four. So if we say that the equity and real estate are the keys, the poles are going to be the debt and the gold. So this is something which is important. So we say 40% proportion in equity and real estate, and 10% proportion in gold and debt. This is something which is going to be helpful to all of us. Now, okay, when we come to now investing, and we understand that investing is a provision for future spending, then we also need to understand that this investment also has to be smart. We cannot just see big dreams and have no preparation and then end up doing something foolish. So we need to be literate in finance. We need to learn. We need to read. We need to understand that what all these different products are. How are we going to invest? What are the pros and cons? So there has to be a systematic and strategic way of investing money. Now, as we say that there are different questions which we have to answer. So what to buy? So, as we said, GRED. So these are the four products which we can buy. Why to buy? Because every product is going to behave different. The gold will have a very lumpy returns. So, last year we saw that gold suddenly gave a very high returns, but maybe for many years, the gold prices may be stagnant. Equity may have high returns, but it may have a high drawdown. So prices may suddenly move up, but they can fall down also. Debt will give a steady return, but a very low return. So, every product will have, real estate will need a very big chunk of money to be invested. So every product will have its own pros and cons. So we need to study them in depth. And when to buy. So how shall we go ahead with the investments? So shall we be doing an SIP, what we call it as every month I'm putting some money in some asset without thinking of what that asset is performing, where the stock market is going, or, something like that. Or whenever there is a correction, whenever some asset drops down or falls down in its price, I'm going to add more. So that's called as a dip buy. So there can be different strategies what we can follow. Similarly, we also have to understand that if I'm buying something, when shall I exit? So when shall I sell? Because once you buy and sell, only then you make profit, right? Only buying doesn't make you profit. Only buying may just give you understanding that it's a notional profit. That means the price of that particular asset which you have bought is increasing, but actually have not received any real money. So sometimes you might have to exit also. So all these, how from how much to buy, so what quantity one should buy, how much money we should invest, then where to buy, so which platforms, which broker platforms. So all these are logistic questions. As I said, being a part of Wealthcon, you will be enlightened with all these in real details. So I'm not going to go in a lot of details of this, but I make you understand that yeah, this is something which is very, very important. So there will be some generic products like stocks, there will be some bonds, or buying gold, the real estate. There will be some branded products. So there will be some companies or some investment firms which are going to package these products into something like a mutual fund or a gold ETF. So we can have some pros and cons of them as well. But what we need to understand is that what we should be staying away from. So we should be staying away from something which is called as a regular plans in mutual funds. So mutual funds, sahi hai, yes, correct. But it comes with a lot of riders. So that means if there are regular plans, probably there is an agent which is involved and he takes away a lot of chunk of your profit. So we encourage everybody in Wealthcon to go for direct mutual funds and not regular mutual funds. So without having any agent in between, because we tend to lose a lot of money. Then, as I said, the ULIP plans or the ignorance plans is something not good. Then Ponzi schemes, multi-level marketing schemes, unregulated products. I think these are all we should be staying away from. Anybody who promises you results like, okay, 30% returns or double the money in a year or two, I think they're all basically fraud. So we should be staying away from all them. So the moment we have to understand that what all products we should buy, the moment that same moment we also have to understand that from what all we need to be staying away from. So as we said, there'll be different avenues when we are looking at gold or real estate or debt products, and we can tend try to buy multiple we can have an intra asset diversification also. So just the way we saw that GRED is a inter asset diversification, there can be intra asset diversification. So in gold itself also we can buy some amount as sovereign gold bonds, some amount as gold ETF, some amount as actually physical gold and something like that. Now, whenever we are buying something or whenever the investment comes in mind, then the most important question many of us do first get is kitna dega? Kitna dega is how much returns would it get? But I think that should be the last question. We should be looking at a lot of other things first. So what are those other things? So that is a cost. So when I'm buying something, what is the cost I'm paying for the entry? Not the cost price of that asset, but just to buy that asset, am I paying some cost? So just like suppose I'm buying gold, I have to pay GST to the government. So that GST is paid to the government. There is no gold worth of that GST coming to me, right? So it's a cost which I'm paying. Now, what is a holding cost? So if I'm holding the gold, suppose I'm holding gold, I probably am afraid I cannot put it in my house. So probably I have a bank locker, I put it in the bank locker, I'm going to pay the bank some amount of money. So there will be some holding price also. And exit cost. So exit causes can be different. Exit causes, like for some mutual funds, they will charge you some exit clause. Secondly, we know that a buy gold price and a sell gold price. So for us, if we go to buy gold from a jeweler and if we go to sell gold to the jeweler, the prices are going to be different. The buy price is going to be higher, the sell price is going to be lower. So, just to give an example, there can be a lot of hidden costs which we are going to pay. Then there will be taxes. Whenever we buy something and then sell, we are going to create a capital gain. Any asset which we buy and sell at a higher price, we create a capital gain, and government is going to tax us on that. So there can be short-term capital gain tax if you are doing these transactions for a year, in some situations up to 3 years, and there will be long-term capital gain tax, so more than a year in equity, but other situations more than 3 years. So there'll be different taxations for this. So we have to pay tax also. That's also one cost which we need to pay. Then something which is called as important is liquidity. Now, what is liquidity? Liquidity means if I buy, probably, great, but when I'm going to sell, are there adequate buyers for to whom I'm going to sell? So that is very important. So this liquidity is going to be very, very important. Uh, and this is going to be challenging in certain asset classes like real estate. If I just decide to sell off my flat tomorrow, it's not going to happen over a few minutes. But if I decide to sell off my shares, I think, yes, probably I can sell them the next minute. So there are a lot of going to be, variations in these different asset classes, and we need to know them as well. Then the risks. So what are drawdowns? Drawdowns means you're bought to a certain price and then suddenly the price went down. And these drawdowns are going to be common in equity. So over a long run, these drawdowns don't matter. So that's why we say that if you want to invest in equity, that means in stocks or share market, then probably your horizon has to be anything more than 7 years. So for short horizon, for 6 months, 1 year, equity or stocks is not something which is going to be helpful to you. Or volatility. Every day the prices keep changing. And then this, we need to understand that yes, certain asset classes have certain patterns of behavior, and that is something which is very, very important. And then we also need to calculate the returns. So returns can be uh, it's like if we are doing a one-time investment, we are going to calculate is as a CAGR, that is a compound annualized growth return, or if it's a investment which is like an SIP form, so every month we are investing or something like that, every particular interval we are investing, then there's we call something called the XIRR. So there'll be rolling returns so every year. So different ways to calculate the returns. And we need to understand that, yes, after all this cost, tax, liquidity risk, then we are going to come to returns and look at the returns. And then we are going to make the decision. Now, see, this looks very difficult, but actually it is not. When we actually start reading and when we actually start doing this, it's very, very simple, not something which is, but I'm just making you aware that, yes, it's not just, okay, look at the returns of certain product and invest in that. No, it's not that simple. We have to look at a lot of other parameters as well. Now we know that all assets eventually go up. So we see that the Indian market equity Nifty is going up, the gold prices are going up. If you're putting in money in say government bonds or FD, it goes up, but there's going to be a different behavior. But the understanding is longer we stay invested, better money we make. And that is something which is very, very important and which makes us come to something which is called as power of compounding. So if we make 50,000 rupees investment every month religiously, then over a period of 10 years, we are going to make around 1 crore. Over a period of 20 years, that is over next 3 years, the addition is going to be almost 3.3 crores, right? So it's not just 1 crore in first 10 years, 1 crore in next 10 years. No, it doesn't happen like that. If first 10 years is giving you 1 crore, next 10 years is going to give you 4.3 crores. Next 10 years is not going to give you another 4.3 crores. It's going to give you far more than that. It is going to give you 12.3 crores. And that is the beauty of power of compounding. So longer you stay invested, very, very exponentially higher amount of money or returns you will be able to generate. Secondly, it is also important to understand that the amount of money which you are investing is important, but the amount of time we are staying invested is also very, very important. So just look at these two examples. So one person is investing 50,000 rupees with 12% returns over 15 years. He could generate 1.13 crores. Another person is investing just 15,000 rupees a month. So far less, just less than one third of the amount of the first person. He's also getting 12% returns, but he stayed invested for the double amount of time, that is 30 years, but he could generate 1.48 CR. So much higher than the first person. So only the amount which we are investing is not important, but the longevity or the amount of time we stay invested is also very, very important. Now, a little bit about tax, because we have to understand that tax is inevitable. Dr. Ram says that death and tax are absolutely inevitable, and probably paying tax to the government is the highest form of charity which we are doing. And now there is something which is called as a new tax regime, which has this elaborate. You don't need to go in the real details of it, but we have to understand that as every 4 lakhs income increases, the tax percentage increases by 5%, and the maximum tax bracket is 30%. Of course, there are situations where this tax bracket goes even beyond 30% as well, but right now we are not going into that details. So many people do cash withdrawal. They don't show income. And that is the way they feel that they are saving tax. No, that's absolutely wrong. Because one, you're evading tax, so that is illegal. And secondly, you're not creating a post-tax income which is available to you to invest and buy assets. And that is something which is very, very important. Because what are you going to do with that cash withdrawal? It is you're going to spend. It's an expense. It's not going to make you buy any asset. But if you pay tax and from that post-tax income, if you buy some asset, then you're creating an asset, you're creating returns in the later life. So this is something which is very, very important. So now coming to the philosophy, that is know thyself. That means you know yourself. Why are you doing this? So before you jump into the waters, you should know that what strengths and weaknesses you do have. And that is something which is important. So we say that investor and instrument together becomes, became or together form the investment. So it's not just the investor, it's not just the instrument, but both together. So we may not always get what is best. So everybody wants, okay, tell me the best thing, what I should be doing. No, it's not like that. It is very subject specific. That person's age, that person's risk appetite, a lot of things come in play. So we call that as target. The mnemonic is target. Simple to remember. Target is what? Time horizon. What am I looking at? Suppose I'm looking at 3 years time horizon. No, equity is not good for me. Stock market is not good for me. I have to look for something different. If my horizon is 10 years, 15 years, yes, then probably equity is going to help me. What is my age? If I'm 70 years, probably my goal would be capital protection. If I'm 30 years, then yes, my risk appetite is high. So, what is my goal? So, if is my goal for my retirement corpus, is my goal my child's education or marriage or whatever? And what are my expertise? Am I expert in this? How much knowledge I do have? If not, then obviously I would upgrade myself. But today, what is the level of my knowledge? And how much time can I dedicate? Can I dedicate 10 minutes a day? Can I dedicate hardly 10 minutes a week? So depending upon that, we need to understand that what path are we going to choose? And that is something which is very, very important. So there are certain don'ts which we know before we come to the last slide. So we should never outsource the financial decisions to somebody else. We should never invest in unregulated or fancy products. We should never invest on tips. My friend told me, oh, this company share is going to go up. Please invest in this. Any stop loss trading, any speculative trading, any intraday trading, we discourage. We don't allow this happen in Wealthcon platform. Then anybody promising you high returns like, okay, double the money in 1 year or 2 years or more than 30% annual returns, I think that is something which is a fraud. So never do that. Never transfer funds to unknown person. What happens? This is very, very, very important. We have seen lot of doctors, lot of educated people like us getting into this frauds. They transfer their money to somebody else's account so that that person will invest it. This is illegal. This cannot happen. And please, please, please never fall into such scams and frauds. This is very important. Then never borrow money. Never borrow money to invest, because borrowing is only for buying different kinds of, so loan is something which is for different kinds of assets. So never borrow money for investment in stock market. Then never buy ignorance plans, as we said. Never go into the multi-level marketing kind of schemes proposed by friends or relatives. Then money is not bad. Okay, money mostly is going to satisfy all your needs. So wealthy people might have struggled a lot to create that wealth. So don't hate them and never stop learning. We always should be learning. So this is the last slide of today I'm going to talk about. So since the FIFA World Cup is going on and there is a football fever, we need to understand that the cup of financial freedom and our team is our financial dream team. But there is an opponent team also. So our goalkeeper is an insurance. So if we buy insurances, the emergency expenses will be taken care of. We will not have a goal. This goalkeeper is going to save goals for us. Then tax savings. Tax savings are the defenders. They will help us save tax legally and make more money available for investment. Now, midfielder is our savings. We have to save. We have to reduce our expenses on especially unnecessary products and save. And our forwards are investments, and our center forward is compounding. For investments and compounding are going to make goals for us. But there is an opponent team also, we have to remember, just like that snake and ladder, there were snakes and there was ladder. We have to also remember that they also have a center forward and forward, which is like emergency expenses, sudden medical emergencies, or expenses on products of prestige. Sometimes we take loan and buy some fancy products. Probably that is going to erode our wealth. Then there are going to be some necessary evils, like the necessary expenses which we need to make. Then taxes are going to take a lot of chunk of our income. So they are going to be, their defenders. And inflation is the bigger snake, as we talked about in the other game. This is somebody who is going to prevent us from making a goal. So the investments and compound have to really, really struggle to reach here and secure a goal against this goalkeeper. And that is something which is very important. So we all need to learn this. We all need to start, beginning our financial journey. And these are the take-home messages. So we have to be reliant, self-reliant. We should start learning. We have to take actions. Only knowledge without action is entertainment. we have to, open a demat account. We have to clear our debts. So we should become loan free as early as possible. We should avoid ignorance plans. We need to plan our taxes and long-term financial planning also. So thank you very much for all of you for attending this webinar. And uh, those who are part of Wealthcon, you know that we have a Wealthcon broadcast channel. Those who are new to Wealthcon, you can scan this QR code, or you can just note down this number, or you can take a screenshot and send hi on this WhatsApp number. You'll be contacted by the admin, and you'll be added to this Wealthcon broadcast channel. Now, this is a completely free channel. Uh, this is a free platform. It is run by doctors, not for any it's not profit making kind of a situation. So it is run for doctors, and for doctors, this is something, a way of giving back to our own community. So whatever knowledge we got, we want to pass it on to the next generation and other doctors. So this is something which is very important. Now I will just look at certain questions which I could see in the chat box. So one question is, oh, okay. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box while I am answering a couple which have already been asked. So the first question is, which is a better real estate investment, commercial or residential property? Now, again, as I said, we cannot say that commercial property is better than residential or either ways. There are going to be some pros and cons. Now, obviously, if we buy, say, 1 CR worth commercial property and 1 CR worth residential property, the rent which we are going to get in a commercial property is going to be higher in percent. So something like maybe we can get around 4 to 5% rent of the value, 4 to 5% of the value from a commercial property. Maybe for a residential property, the rent can be around 2.5, max 3%. So obviously we get lesser returns. But the problem is the commercial property, the chances of being staying vacant or unoccupied, or you're not getting a tenant, is higher. So the duration this property stays vacant, you don't earn the rent. But mostly the residential properties don't stay vacant. Mostly, their occupancy is higher. So, we have to calculate that which area, this commercial property is, what are the prospects, similarly, which area this residential house is, and what are the prospects. And accordingly, we have to make our investments. Secondly, we also have to see that, are we investing in the real estate boom? So in some area, we suddenly, see prices shooting up, and at that high or at that peak, we are investing. So probably that is something which is not a great idea. So whenever we are investing any commercial or residential property, look at it from a business point of view, look at it from the returns point of view, look at it from the risks point of view. And then we can say that, okay, in this situation, commercial property is better, or in the other situation, residential property is better. Now, there is one more question. Okay, so yes, Dr. Vinay is asking about any kind of courses or any kind of other educational things which are happening in the Wealthcon. Yes, if you stay tuned to this Wealthcon channel, I think you'll be updated for different things, different educative programs which we run all across the year. And whatever programs you're interested in, you can enroll for that. Otherwise, meanwhile, you can get engrossed to the daily discussions which we have, the daily topics which we talk about, and daily, some points of knowledge which we share. Yeah. So I think there are no more questions which are seen. So thank you everybody for being a part of this lecture today. And I thank all the Welcon admins and Dr. Ram for giving me this opportunity. And it was wonderful being a part of this. And I hope most of you would take some points as a take-home message, which will help you in your financial journey. So thank you very much. So I think we can end the meeting here. Thank you.